Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with this dog. Ah! This dog has been jumping on me since I sat down. With me, your host, a much bitten Anne, and Kiki, disembodied Kiki, who's happy that she's disembodied, so she can't be chewed. Plus Justin and John, who are also glad they're remote, so they can't be chewed on. And Kiki, the monster. No, 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 nope. Nope. Go settle. Keeks, Papa, go settle. No. No, ma'am. No. No. Go settle. Go settle. Kiki. Might I have to kick you out? Go settle. Nope. Out, out, out. Out, out. Damn spot. Out, out. Yeah. You're gonna have to wait. Yeah. That was no. Yeah, settle down, Missy, and then maybe I'll let you back in. Exiled. Exiled. Completely exiled. She's immense, Inara. She's immense. She's probably over 60 pounds at this point. She's gotta be. She's gotta be. We're heading for the 70-pound mark, and I'm like, dang. Dang, dog. So, yeah. Oh, she's so dingy. Oh, my God. Oof. Yeah, hang in there, Twistedoma. Hope you got all the stuff you need. Yeah, Kiki is, we decided this morning that Kiki is a Pokemon. And, like, she starts out being the Bitey Maw, the tiny Bitey Maw. And then she evolves into the Snortle, which means she has her nose stuck in everything all the time. So we're at the mid-range evolution. We have no idea what the final form is. We're not sure we want to know. And everybody thinks they want a tiny Bitey Maw until they have one. But yes, she still has vestiges of the Bitey Maw, of course, just like a Pokemon never loses their initial nature. So, yeah. So that's Kiki. Kiki's a Pokemon. We've decided. Ah, boy. But yeah, total dingo. She was very good up to this point, although she has been a little bit more needy today. She wants to play, and whenever I say the word play, it goes in her brain. So, settle, please, Missy. Go get your chew. Oh, she brought her ball and put it right in front of the gate. I don't know. The problem is she's so dang cute and she's so dang smart, and sometimes she's like, here's a toy, please play with me. And you're just like, oh, fine. And you just stop working and play with her. Hold on. I'm going to roll her ball for her, and then I'm going to sell. Okay, Papa? I'm going to roll it for you. Here you go. Okay, ready? Get it. Get it. Yeah, good girl. Yay. Good girl. Good girl. All right, are you going to be good? Are you going to be good if I open up this door and not be a dingo? We'll try it. You have to be good and you have to settle, young lady, okay? Gotta settle. Mama's gotta work. Okay, we're gonna try it. We're gonna try it. Yeah, Kiki Mom for sure. Kiki Mom. Oh, boy. Still, we're not out of the woods yet, folks. We're not out of the woods yet. We've got a ding. Hey, Dingo, leave Daddy's shoes alone. Shh. Enough, Keeks. Yeah, if you're gonna just go, no, she's done. Ouch, ouch. Come on. Nope. Come on, move it. Oh, I can move you if you don't want to move. Out and settle, Missy. You have all sorts of stuff out here. Out and settle. Yeah, we tried. We gave her a chance, guys. We gave her a chance, but she's too much of a dingo this morning. Too much of a dingo. All right, but at least we got that out of the way. I gave her a second chance. She lost it. Yeah, and she knew too. She was just sitting. She's like, no, don't make me leave. And I'm like, oh, I can make you leave. Even if you are an 80-pound dog, I can still get my hands around you and haul you up. She is definitely a trial lately. We had a period of angel dog, and now we're back on the what can I get away with is what we're back on. So, like, she's been forcibly confined to her crate during supper because she has decided to revert and not be a good girl during supper. So it's been like, all right, you're done. You're in your crate. Hopefully we will get past this stubborn growth stage at some point, and probably it'll be another 3 months. But yeah, it's morning and they want to play. Well, that's why she gets up. That David gives her walk in the morning, and then she gets her breakfast, and she gets my attention for a while I make my breakfast, and then she's but it's not enough for Keeks. Like, it would be enough for a lower energy dog, but it's not enough for Keeks. She has her bully stick and she has her pig ear, so hopefully, I think she's just like settled down out there on the other side of the gate. Yeah, pair of toddlers, exactly, Kodiak. So you know that you get those days where they're angels, and then you get the day and you're like, whoa, we're past the worst of it. And then they're like, haha, it's a trap. Good girl. That kind of thing. That's totally what you get with puppies and with toddlers. Alrighty, I'm going to do the horrible scale mail that bothers everyone. And we're going to block it in today. And I'm going to do it in time-honored Sergio tradition. So we're going to do stripes of color, and then we're going to refine them and refine them and refine them, and then we're going to bring in the details. So you guys probably haven't seen me do this before. This is going to be painting metal like I tackle hair. So this is a new thing. Tune up your earbuds and pay attention. Or not. If you don't, then you don't. Let's see here. What do I want to do? I probably want to use my gray liner. Where are you, gray liner? Yeah, we use gray liner. All right, so I'm going to make my stripes. So what I want is a near black, which is my gray liner. I want my base color. I want a shade of highlight, and I want white. And I'm going to be wet blending these, and I'm going to be working pretty fast with them. You don't have to wet blend them. You could block them in. So actually, let's just do that. Let's just block them in big, broad stripes with no blending, and work from that. So I'm doing 4 drops of cloudy gray. I'm actually going to double my recipe, though, so it's going to be 8. With normally it would be 4 to half a drop of tropical blue, but since we're doubling, it'll be a full drop. Only I already added half a drop, so now I have to. Right, he can wear what he can. Yeah, his armor can look like whatever he wants. People don't like it because but there's still like there is fantasy references for this. Look at the scale mail in Lord of the Rings in the last movie. On the, I forget the warriors that are marching past Frodo and Sam, and they cover up them with their capes and turn into rocks. But I believe that there is also scale mail of that sort on those people. Easterlings, yes. So Easterlings, there is a prior reference in fantasy canon, and I'm sure it's based on something. All right, so we've got this. We're going to use we mixed up a bunch of our base so that we can essentially use it to mix into this to take it up a level and to create a lighter version. But anyway, I don't care about the armor. I'm just going to paint it. And if it was regular scale mail, I'd paint it the same way, just so y'all know. Except, of course, that your highlighted shadow surfaces are going to be kind of inverted because that's the way it is. But, all right, so the key with this tropical blue is you do not want your silver to go too blue with it. If it looks more blue than gray, then you've gone too far. And I don't look more blue than gray, but I do feel like I'm a little too blue, so I'm going to pop this. The point of putting a different color in is so it doesn't look absolutely flat and monochrome, as silver and steel pick up colors from the surroundings constantly so they don't look real unless you put some sort of color with them. You know, you could do it with glazes if you don't want to mix it into your colors straight up. That's fine. You can absolutely do spot glazes. It's a little bit harder because then you have to think about where to target those colors, but you can do it. So 2 big fat brushfuls, and then we bring our pure white in. Hey, Corsair. Has it been a while, Corsair? Or has it just been a while since you've chatted? It just seems like I haven't seen you for that. I haven't seen you that recently. Lately, we've been doing that. We've been getting a bunch of people who used to tune in a lot who are tuning in more infrequently. And I see them pop up from time to time. So 2 drops of white with my 2 brushfuls of stuff. And that just makes it easier for me to remember my ratios. Although with this, it's not that important. So I want to see a definite step in color. Ah, yeah. Yep, that's most people. They seem to have gone back to or started new work post-COVID. All right, and then I am going to take like half a brushful and mix it into my green liner just to give it a little bit more body. So it's not quite as transparent. It's still very dark. That's what we want. I'll probably also kind of mix a half and half of this for some stripes. Oh, it's just water. Jamie, the thing about Master Series paint is that we already have Flow Improver mixed into every recipe. Like every paint, every batch we mix already has like 2 different types of Flow Improver added. So you don't need to use a medium with this. You just need to use water. If you want to add extra Flow Improver, if you're doing like tiny fiddly freehand where you really need the paint to come off the brush, you could absolutely do a little extra Flow Improver, but we really don't require any other mediums. When you're building washes with them, then I do recommend that you use a wash medium or a matte medium or Reaper's Brush On Sealer, which essentially takes the place of a matte medium. And use that with water to build a wash just because it holds the wash together when you thin it that much. But that's the only time I recommend a medium with these paints. And I'm the one who made them, by the way. I formulated them. I created the line, everything up to Pathfinder. And I hand mixed every batch or almost every batch for 15 years. So I know what I'm talking about. I was there adding the Flow Improver. But we love you, Inara. You can't leave us. Okay, you can leave us, but we'll cry. We'll look sad. We'll give you kiki eyes. Come play with us, Inara. Yeah, liners are versatile. People underestimate them. You don't need to use them, but I use them regularly. Like they're out of the top 30 paints that I reach for on a regular basis, at least brown liner and rogue shadow are definitely there. And then if you drop down to the top 50 paints that I use regularly, you would also fall in with gray liner and blue liner. So, and Death Knight Black is down there around the bottom in there too. So I use a lot of liners. Oh yeah. Yup. And now I don't know who the resident paint. I know they had Reaper gets a lot of art students working for them because a lot of metals students actually want to, work in the casting department, or it's a logical job for them, right? And then those art students tend to refer other art students. So we do have somebody who is in the arts. I don't know if they're a metal worker or what, but we do have somebody who is artistic working in the paint department, I believe, right now. I had heard something of that sort. It doesn't really take an artist so much as it takes somebody who's really good at, got a good eye for color matching. And really that can be any person, anybody can have that skill. So. Yeah, I don't usually use the sepia liner. That's one that James Wapple asked for. So it's it was one that I made for somebody else and I never really got into using it, but instead, I use for the same thing, I use something that's the same color, only a real paint, which is rich leather, and I'm using that and thinning it if I need to. So it's the same sort of thing, it's just I'm just spot thinning it instead of using a liner. But if you're doing model railroad stuff, that makes sense that you'd want it just pre-mixed pretty much, and then you just thin it and go. All right, now we're going to do the white. We're not thinning too much. Usually just a 4-to-1 or at most 3-to-1, just because this is a base coat. So we want it a little thin. So we're going to do stripes. Stripes like Sergio. I never did stripes before Sergio, but now I like stripes. Stripes, doing stripes in your NMM or alternating like patches of light and dark just essentially gives you the illusion that there are things around the model in the surroundings, things that are blocking the light at various points or coming forward and being reflected in the surface of the metal, right, from the environment. So usually that's a shadow of a person or something like that in real life. I mean, all the primers, everything except sepia. Sepia may not work as a primer. But the others will probably work because it's not the pigments in the brown liner that work. It's the actual base composition because it's a different chemistry than the other ones. So all the liners that use that base are usually our darker liners, and they should all work. I have not personally tested them. I personally think that brown liner and rogue shadow are still your best choices there. Unless you're working on something with a very cold color scheme and you want that like blue liner undertone. But yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That was a while ago. Yeah, when David used to work across from me and like, you know, and burst in every once in a while. Yeah. Very distracting for him. He's happy to be back in the office. Okay, that makes sense, Inara. Yes. Alrighty, so I've got my colors. I want a big brush. So where is my DaVinci Maestro 2? You could also use a Reaper 1 for this. Reaper Kolinsky size 1. It would be a pretty good brush for this actually. I'm just going a little bit overboard with my 2 because it's my new favorite brush. Okay, so we don't really even have anything to do on the front, right? Here, let's get in focus. Focus. There. So we don't really have anything to do on the front because our main highlight has already come down on the front of this leg with the weird beaded armor, which is cool and all. But, so we're going to start on the back where we have a light source coming down. We've already kind of like got it here on the sword, which we were working on last time. So we can kind of even see, right? You can see that there's a shadow over here. And you can see that there's a shadow on this side, right? And this is just matte paint, so it's not reflecting anything. But really, our main highlight is right down the front, right? So right away, and I forgot I did put an actual base coat down here. So right away, we're going to bring in a white highlight. And we're going to let it spread out a little bit as it reaches the bottom because this is actually a cone, as you can see. And when you've got highlights going down a cone, usually they're narrower at the narrow top and then they spread out at the bottom a little bit here. It's dull. So let's just do that for now. Now we're going to go to a lighter gray. And we're not paying any attention to the underlying surface. Just like with hair, you don't paint the strands till the end. So here, we're not going to pay attention to the scales individually till the end. And we're going to do the other side with the light gray as well. And you don't want this to be precise. It's okay, and it should overlap various scales, like partially. It does not have to. You don't want to end on a scale, actually, if you can help it. You want to always be hitting the edge, at least, of the next scale. It'll help, at least a couple of them. You can be on the line in some places, but try to not be just going in a line down where you stop at a scale, at the edge of a scale, or it's going to not blend convincingly. And you are trying to convey, you know, the overall lighting. So now we're going to go dark. Yep, straight to dark. Or almost straight to dark. I'm going to dab that in. And here I'll do a little bit of blending. I'll get my light color and kind of blend in a little bit with the darker. So stripe. And we have plenty of room to touch this up, so if it gets dirty or you accidentally go too far with your dark highlight, don't worry about it, you can fix it. This is just to block it in. This is just to get the placement of the light and the shadow where it makes you happy. And I'm also going to do a shadow here, because essentially I'm doing bands. So the hand is right here. That's going to give us a shadow right up there. So as I block in both of these, I'm going to kind of also block in this area underneath the hand. It's going to be a secondary shadow there. As the arm comes down, it's going to kind of cast right through here. I'm going to kind of link those up at the top because that's where the arm is, right? So I can grab a little bit of my base gray and mix that in a little bit through here, so to kind of soften it just a tad. If you put metallics down, you would still see that the center has the shine when you've got your light source right up here. Like most of us paint miniatures, pretty much with the light coming from the top or a slight angle on the top, or a slight angle from the back, but on the top like so. So you'd still see that, but you wouldn't see these side panels. You wouldn't necessarily see the dark and the light because metallic paint does not have the same shine as, say, a very shiny steel. So, and also your miniature is still small, right? It's still like a certain scale. So on this guy, you might see a little bit more because he's big, but normally you really need to paint still the shadows and the highlights on metallics because you're still working with a tiny figure. And that tiny figure is not going to give you realistic highlights and shadows. It can't. It's the scale. This is why we over accentuate all of our shading and highlighting as miniatures painters, because the miniature does not cast realistic shadows at this scale. It starts to cast realistic shadows somewhere between 54 and 72 millimeter. And this guy is definitely, the size of a 72. So his muscles, for example, are casting some realistic shadows. But even if I did metallics here, this is still too small. Yeah, I would shade. If you're doing shaded metallics, I paint them just like NMM Corsair. Paint them just like NMM. With metallics, you can actually see the highlight, and so you can use your light on the miniature to kind of guide where you put your highlight in. You never come up to pure white again, but you can mix a little bit of white into your light gray to get a secondary. This is also where you can lead into, when you've seen people do that, what they call black and white NMM, where it pretty much goes from white to black and you don't have a lot of midtone. Essentially, they've lost their midtone, but they want to. They're trying to because the black and white NMM looks very showy. But you could do that if you completely lose your midtone. You can paint that black and white NMM that's so stylish that some people really like by doing this. You just would continually work to get a black to white transition that involved very little gray. And then over here on the front, I'm gonna bring down this shadow just a wee bit more to make it a secondary shadow. And pretty much it's just bands of highlight and shadow around the model. Like so is how you typically are going to get it. The very simplest form, and we're doing very simple here, is just your main highlight, bands of shadow to either side, and then bands of highlight around the sides, which are just reflected light. Down here we also have another band of shadow because the hand is coming down, and then I would go back up to a highlight on the front. But not as bright of a highlight as I have on the back. So I would take my light gray and then I would bring in. And remember, this is just like, this is not to say that I won't have a pure white highlight on some of these scales. This is just to say that this is the way the general light is falling on the figure. So just because we're not going up to pure white on some of these other highlights, instead we're kind of toning it back, doesn't mean you won't have some pure white highlights on some of these scales or very close. Actually bring that down. There. So I gotta get that arm shadow in there, the hand shadow. Hand shadow, test it. Light coming from above, there it is. All right, we're good. But yeah, essentially when I paint metallics, shaded metallics, I do exactly the same thing I do with NMM. I'm just, again, I'm giving it a helping hand. And I would probably, the difference, Corsair, is that I very seldom use just straight gray to darken any metallics for shading. Here, let me fetch Anubis and show you what I mean. One second. So whenever I'm shading metallics, what I'm actually trying to do is, because I'm using the straight up metallic paint, and I'm not mixing any colors into it. Remember how I mentioned you want to have colors in your metals? Well, in metallic paint, I work with the pure metallic and don't mix in additional color because the pure metallic is the shiniest version, and the minute you add pigment to that, you're going to dull it down. I don't want it to be dull, except in the shadows. So essentially for metallics, I'm going to start with the pure gold, which you can see up here at the top of the model on the neck, right? But then you see how that kind of starts to fade out and fade out and fade out and fade out. Now it's very dark. You still see some shine, right? You're still seeing the shine come through because it's metallics. I'll sing for you in a second, Masara, 1 second. But I've used colors to shade this down. So in this, if I was doing this in metallics, I would have started with the pure silver steel, but then I would be probably doing blues and browns to shade it down. This is a Hera, I think it is Hera models, Hera models. It's one of they've got some pseudo-Egyptian characters, and I really love them. So I've been working on this guy. You can see I've got this shading done on his feet as well. There's metallics down there. But what I'm using is a mixture, in this case for gold, I like to use purples and browns. Instead of with silvers, I like blues and browns. Sometimes I'll throw a green or a red in, depending on what I'm doing. But so I'm using the royal brown from Chimera and the dioxazine purple, which is they call violet, for shading on these metallics. So with metallics, instead of mixing the paint in because it will dull the shine, I work with the shiniest paint. I start with the shiniest paint I can get. Which is why I did a while ago kind of a test on the shiniest silvers in my arsenal for the Patreon, which is patreon.com/paintingbig. And essentially now the colors that I isolated in that test as the shiniest metallics are the ones that I start with. And so then you want to, I've still got to bring up the lighting on areas here for the fire. But other than that, at least I got some shading on the metallics. So he's coming along really well. I still haven't touched his skin tones because the skin tones are the fun part. But yeah, so he's moving, and his staff is getting more painted as well. But yeah, so, and that's what it looks like. It just gives you a more complex color. Down, I went pretty heavy on the purple on the feet, whereas up here I went more, you can see the brown more. And I may go in, and I wanted to kind of get a cloisonne effect, like the colored glass effect on the feet, which Egyptians absolutely, I think it's faience or something like that. It's a colored glass technique that the Egyptians used. So yeah, I'm doing that. But, so yeah, for metallics, because you're depending on the shine of the surface, you want to start with your shiniest paint. Yeah, you should not have looked at the Hera website. There's some good stuff. Yep, exactly. So yeah, I'm a Patreon. If you are a member, you can go look. I think it's in the $5 tier. I did essentially a bunch of swatches of silver and steel metallics. and was able then to analyze them and see what was the absolute brightest. And I was a little bit surprised at what I ended up with. But it was interesting. It was very interesting. So now I start with that, and I work with those colors. All right, so now we are essentially getting to the point where we're going to start more layering, and we're starting to adjust. So now we're going to take our water, and we're going to drop an additional drop of water in every one of these, because we need it to be thinner to start refining. And technically 2 drops of water in this one, because remember we doubled that recipe. Alrighty. Yeah, my enablement channel is leaking, but yes. Whatever anybody says is a cool model, I have to give credit. I have to tell them where to find it. They can unburden their wallets. Since we do that for Reaper every day on this channel. And let's get my base color mixed up. And get this guy mixed up. And I'm not going to go for pure. I'm actually going to put a little bit of gray into this. And then I'm going to go back into this because I think I've darkened a little bit. I think I want it a little closer. A little closer. There it is. Oh no, the enablement channel is far worse than any of you know. I mean, some of you know because you're my patrons, and so you have been to the enablement channel and you understand. But believe me, it gets worse. It gets worse. You only see a small fraction here on this channel. We protect you. We protect you and your wallets, just so you can, go to Reaper's site and buy Reaper miniatures, of course. But still, Reaper stuff makes it onto the enablement channel too. It's just that most of my patrons already know about all the Reaper stuff, so maybe a little bit more, a little bit less Reaper makes it onto there. It's because everybody already knows and already has spent all their money. So I'm just bringing this over a little bit now. I've got thinner paint, which means I can blend a little bit easier because a little bit of paint on your brush goes farther when you have thinned paint. And I can essentially go and kind of just start to blend in a little bit, decide how far I want my darks to come, or whether I need to darken down this a little bit and scoot my shadow a little bit this way, which does look pretty good, all things considered. I need to probably narrow the shadow. That's the other thing, is I want some of these bands of shadow to be pretty narrow and pretty blended in. I'm going to get over here and do a little blending over here. Once again, I've got a shadow under that arm, so I need to watch that, but oh, I didn't realize your name was Battletech, Cranston. We should have known because we've talked about Battletech before, but it's been a long time since I Battleteched, so in my defense. Battleteched a ton when I was in college because I had a bunch of friends who did it. So that would make me an old school Battletecher rather than a new school. Yeah, that's true. I imagine that is true. All right. So we've got some general stuff here. I'm going to blend in this line a bit. Kind of going to just mix together. This is where I start using my well palette like a wet palette, where I just start mixing little dabs of half and half mixes on the top, just so I can layer them over and get that blend that I want. And then I also need to blend this in over here a little bit more. I don't want my black to be huge black bands. That would defeat the purpose. Usually the dark stripe on NMM is very understated. It's there, but it's not terrifically strong. So we want to minimize this a little bit. But I still want that general feel underlying. And then when we get over here, technically we need to put some of this this color, the peach color, the salmon color, needs to go on these little scales because it's big enough. It's a big enough model for us to do that, so no excuses. All right, so we've got general bands of light and dark moving around the figure now. And so now I want to get in there and line the scales. And what I want to do really, probably want to solidify a little bit of the scales that are really solid in the middle here. In my light areas, I'm not going to use the gray liner. I'm going to use the cloudy gray to line, or something close to it, maybe a mixture of the cloudy gray and the gray liner. So let me mix a mix of that, mix a little mix. And then I will use the more pure, I'll use pure gray liner on the dark sections. Something in more in the middle for the mid sections. Probably thinned gray. Oh yeah, the Marauder. I always liked the Warhammer, the old Warhammer mech. It's my fave. I love PPCs and I cannot lie, even though I overheat. All right. Yeah, it was pretty awful, Max Cornico, for sure. I mean, that's why you use just the cardboard standees. All right. I think I might need just a tiny bit more gray liner actually in this. So we pop a little bit more in, just straight up. Gonna have to probably solidify my darks a little bit to use them as liner fodder. So I need them to be a little stronger. Can't be layering consistency and trying to line. You want something a little bit more. And I'm going to switch to a thinner brush. Even though I can line with the 2, switching down to a 1 is probably going to serve me better. Or one of my very long-tipped Raphaels might also be a good call. Where's my Da Vinci 1? Da Vinci 1, where are you? There you are. I always hated the look of the rifles. Yeah, I was always an aesthetic Battletech gamer. I picked the mechs that I thought looked good, which was very few of them. All right. We did do the thing where we took like 20 of the super light mechs against an Atlas to see if you could win. We did do a test of that. All right, so I've got this mix, and it's kind of halfway between cloudy gray and gray liner. I'm going to try to use that to line my really pale parts here. I might need to make it a little stronger, we'll see. But I'm going to use it to essentially try to bring out these scales. And it's okay to do this here because, you know, as the scales overlap, they are going to cast small shadows. So it's totally realistic to do this. You just don't want to make it too dark because essentially lining too dark will overpower your underpainting here. Oh yeah, they're pretty terrible models. I mean, they're just old, you know, back before miniatures companies had all the tech they do now. And I'll use my white to touch things up. I still feel like I need, like this is not strong enough. So I've got it too thin. So I'm going to put a drop of Cloudy Gray and a drop of Gray Liner together. And I still need it a little thin because it's got to act as a liner, but I'm sure Kareniko does not care about the name of the horrible thing that drilled her finger. It would just be, get that bloody thing away from me. Most of the time the guns were too much. All right, we're going to try that. I've thickened it up by adding a drop of Cloudy Gray and a drop of Gray Liner. We'll try it again. They look equally bad. It all looks bad from that time period. I don't even know like if they used CAD to make those models. Like I think Reaper did use CAD to make their mech models for Cav. But I have no idea like how the original sculpts were done for Battletech. There. Now we're getting more of what I want. And whenever I've got kind of a messy lining, because sometimes these sculpts are not terribly crisp, sometimes you're just going to run into some stuff. Just want to neaten them up by adding a little bit of your white. The problem with these is they're just so clunky. The scales are very clunky. So we're going to have to kind of paint plastic surgery some of this stuff, I suspect. Plus sometimes the edges are irregular. Looking at it on camera actually tells me where the like flaws are. To just try to get this a little bit better. Oh, it's alpacas. It is, yeah. It is. We're screwing up some NMM. That's what we're doing. Not really. We're just in the very early stages. We did NMM on the sword the other day, and we did the front leg a long time ago. But now we are just trying to work with these huge upside down scale things. And thank you, Pakas, for the raid. So yeah, pretty much doing something that's this huge and this weirdly shaped is kind of a struggle bus for a while. You just kind of keep working at it, and eventually you try to work it out. But yeah, when you've got the scales are just kind of a little clunky in places, you're going to end up doing paint plastic surgery to try to even them out. The other thing I'm going to do after I get the lining in to kind of trim these scales out is I am going to do a glaze to make it blend in, because it's going to look messy because the scales are clunky. So this is a Bones Black model. We're used to Bones USA. We're getting very spoiled on this stream. So I'm just going to get what I can in here to kind of like get these guys lined out. A little bit, because we want a little bit of differentiation. But yeah, it's definitely a struggle for a while on this stuff. Like you started out and looked so terrible, and you're just like, oh my god, I just want to stop. And this is just where, honestly, guys, you can't let it stop you. You have to just go, nope, if I keep going, I can make this smooth out and look good. I know I can. It's just, this is the ugly stick stage, right? Every mini goes through the ugly stick stage at some point, almost every mini. There are rare minis who just like are dreams to paint from top to front to end, and then there are the minis that go into the ugly stick phase. And those are the minis you tend to stop, and maybe you don't pick them up again if you're my husband. He's so pretty, like he's spoiled. Like I feel like David like gets annoyed with the struggle phase, and sometimes he's just like meh, and he just moves on to another model. As I mentioned earlier, Shadow Raven, there is a precedent for this sort of scale armor in fantasy canon, so it is. And we mentioned it earlier, it's the Easterlings from Middle-earth from the Lord of the Rings movie. The last one, Return of the King. And so it's in the right, like, kind of feel as far as the right. The Easterlings were kind of loosely Middle Eastern based, kind of. So this guy. Not totally out, so we're trimming up the messy lining a bit, and I'm just going around, kind of like fading it in. The next step, just like with hair, is to really pay attention to each individual scale and start being a little bit persnickety about highlights and individual shadows. So doing this sort of NMM, doing the complex surface but that is a big surface like that goes around the model. This is the worst kind of NMM. Like this is the most time-consuming type of NMM. Like the scales are as much of a pain in the butt as my lady with the lion pauldron that I did in Chrome, right? Did in Sky Earth, I should say, not strictly Chrome. Like, because it's the same kind of thing. You have to paint it generally. Then you have to pop some definition in where it would be. And then you have to pay attention then to each individual scale to see where it fits in the whole thing. At least if you paint like I do. There are probably people who are far more generalist about this stuff and who don't spend as much time on each individual piece. Right, but this is the way that, like, it is the way they did the Easterling armor. I think. I don't know. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they did the other. I have no idea. I haven't looked at the movie for a long time. I just remember this armor from the movie. And I'm betting that's where Jason got it, because he wanted to do something different, and he figured it's an ethereal genie. As was pointed out earlier, it's an ethereal thing. It really doesn't matter what its armor looks like. Its armor is just a construct of its ethereal nature. It's an air elemental. It doesn't matter what the armor looks like. He doesn't want a cold priest growing up his skirt, blowing up his skirt. That's funny. So, yeah, we're not even going to discuss realism on this model, guys. I'm sorry. I know some of you are going to sit and make fun of the armor, but the reality is this is an elemental air entity, and he can look however the heck he wants, and his armor class is the same over his entire body no matter what. So the only question you should be asking yourself is, how do I paint this to make it not look like ass? Yes, exactly, Quindy. Exactly, Quindy. Yes, and do you like that? Yeah, sorry, I dropped the I dropped profanity very little on this stream, but this definitely warrants it. Because this is definitely, there's a reason I put this part off, guys. This is the hardest part of the model. Unless you're just going to throw metallics and a wash on it. Then it's easy. You're the only question you should be asking yourself about this is how to make it not look like ass. Yeah. Yep. You can clip that. That's a good one. So let's see here. I have to stop and think now. Because it's at a mum, and you always have to stop and think. Nice, Simon. Yeah, that's cool. We are painting a cleric also. We do a 6 model rotation. So 1, 2, 3. Next week, we're going back to our cleric. We're doing yellows because yellows are so hard for people. So we're doing a lot of yellow on this particular cleric. I think, let's see, today is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Monday, Tuesday. She'll be Tuesday. Or in his case, he doesn't even need to be on a horse. He's levitating. So, yeah. Yeah, she's coming along very nicely. We did the pink underpainting thing, the pink underpaint trick. All right, so now I have to stop and I have to go. Okay, Anne, are you really gonna do every little one of these? Maybe. I'm gonna do an experiment because even on the really bright scales, we should have a little shadow. So I'm going to do an experiment with putting in a little bit of shadow on each of these little bright scales. But yeah, these are definitely a bit clunky, and makes it hard. We're gonna get more of this stuff. Oh, I said I was gonna glaze. I should glaze first. All right, so I'm gonna glaze with my pale because I want to bring up now that I've got some dark contrast there, I want to bring it all up together. So I'm gonna get my off-white. Essentially, this is like foggy gray from MSP, but it's really just a little bit of our previous gray mixed into our pure white. And I'm going to thin that with a bunch of water. Because it has white in it, you need to thin it quite a bit. No, that would actually defeat the whole purpose, Cursor. I know it's a joke. But if you think about it, that sort of thing, completely just because you're doing NMM and you're trying to do realistic reflections. So doing actually, it would almost be, to be honest, if I did a rune on every scale, it would be easier to paint. That should tell you how terrible it is to try to do this. Okay, so I've got my thin white, and I'm going to just paint it over everything here down the middle. Let it sink in. And then I'm going to slurp it out. So I need a bigger brush. I'm going to grab my big mixing brush to pull some of this off, and I'm going to pull it off from the edges so I don't have to touch it directly. When you glaze, especially when you glaze with white colors, light colors, you really don't want to get in there any more than you have to. Sometimes you do have to get those little bits, in which case do it near the beginning, not once it starts to dry. White glazes are the hardest glazes. This brush is not serving its purpose because it's my mixing brush, so it's splitting. But it's still my biggest brush. Need to pour that out. Try to, yeah, there we go. Try to, really try to pull it from the edges whenever you can so you don't make a brush stroke or peel up paint. If you have to go to the center, go toward the bottom of the center. Never touch the face of the miniature if you can. Be real light touch with it. You don't want to touch the lines too much either, or you're not gonna your glaze isn't gonna fade it a whole lot. But it did actually fade it out a bit. It's not nearly as harsh as it was before. But I do need to get all of this off. No little puddles, because if you have a puddle, it's going to dry incorrectly because you've got too much water in it. I think I'm okay. I don't really like Earth and Fire as much, Turgeon. So the answer is maybe, but probably not, but maybe, I don't know. If I'm looking for something big to paint, I might, but I don't like them nearly as much. If you still need to paint something, lighten up a line, you can always paint a little bit of your light gray over it once the light gray is thinned. You're funny. Neurotic. Earth, wind, and fire. All right. Now I still have like a lot of areas where I need to blend, right? So we will grab some of our gray and start working in to get that settled. And I did need to get some shadows on these. Yeah, I mean, my rule on this is that I really try to only paint models that I like, or at least don't actively dislike, because otherwise that's where you get me not finishing a model. And even though there's no obligation to finish everything on this stream, I still prefer to do so rather than to not do so, because that's part of the charm of it. I'm doing an experiment. Pardon me. Yeah, okay. But I have other big things I'd rather paint. Like I'm still thinking about painting the dragon bust from ReaperCon, Julie's dragon bust, because it would enable us to paint a dragon, but very small amount of dragon. Because otherwise I never finish them because they're just too big, too much is the same thing. And if we did it, I'd want to do a whole bunch of different scales, colors on it, so I'll have to think of a concept for it. So I'm going in and I'm just bringing on a little bit of shadow toward the top of each of these little scales. Yeah, she's a good model. She's around Sands now. She's just a great model, though. Like, half of it's not even my paint job on that one. It's just that it's a great model. Great model does half the work for you. When it's got good personality. I wanted to paint that one for a while. So what I'm coming in here with is a little tiny bit of shadow, and then I'm using my off-white to buff out a lot of it. Just a little bit, giving us a little bit of variation on some of these scales. Yeah, I mean, it's cool and all, but it's cool until you really get sick of it, Kodiak. Dragons, that is the problem with dragons, and that is why dragons are much better tackled with an airbrush, in my opinion. And I'm not an airbrush person, so that says something. But if you can remove the drudge work from the dragon, you have a better chance of actually finishing it if you try some really intensive color scheme like that iridescent one. Doing a lot of wet blending here just because I tend to do a lot of that on stream lately just because it's faster, so you guys don't have to sit through as much. But you can see what I'm doing. I'm giving a little bit of shadow at the top of every scale, but I am making sure that 75% of the surface is still white or off-white. And they look good. You got to airbrush them on in a lot of coats, but a dragon is big enough, Corsair, that you could do it. You'd probably still want a line between the scales and, you know, do that sort of thing. But I mean, it'll look great because it's big. Color shift paints tend to work a lot better on big models. Yeah, these scales are also thick, and that makes it difficult. Some of them are thicker than others. So this is very finicky work here. You know, there's like content and there's content. Like when I started listening to Critical Role, then I was like, holy crap, because, you know, a lot of those videos are 4 hours long because they're gaming sessions. with a break in between. And that, I mean, if you don't have a lot of time to listen, like, it takes you forever to get through Critical Role unless you sacrifice a lot of time to do it, or you have a long drive. Like, it would be so much easier if you had a long commute. I go for a walk every night and I listen to audiobooks on my walk, but I'm usually listening to my writing audiobooks or business audiobooks or something like that to help me with my my new author stuff. So it's like I don't usually like listening to fiction audio, so it makes it a little harder. Nope, all lining. All lining, Simon. I did a glaze to kind of bring up some of my lining and make it a little less obvious, but now I'm just trying to melt it in and make everything smooth. These scales, as I mentioned, are really kind of irregularly sculpted, so it's not easy. It'd be easier to make this look good if they were more regular. But I think Jason sculpted them very individually, and he did not use a cookie cutter. Like, it's, which makes it a lot more interesting, but it also is a little harder, honestly, to paint. But I've got two choices, liner or washes. The reason I don't use washes, Simon, are, with rare exceptions, on occasion I do, but it's a very rare occasion. And the reason is that I used to use a lot of washes, but then I realized that they were actually not saving me any time. They were actually costing me time. Or worst case scenario, they were costing me time, and best case scenario, it was taking me just as long to paint as it would have to do this, because once I got decent brush control and was able to line, I was able to line, and then I could just move on to highlights, right? Whereas with a wash, I put the wash on, had to wait for it to dry, and then I had to touch it up because it's darkened my entire surface. So then it costed me more time because I had to go back and rebase coat to bring my base color up to where I wanted it again, and then start highlights. So after a while, I just stopped doing that, and I just started painting my shadows in where I wanted them and doing it that way because it was faster. It saved me time. I am not every painter, and your mileage may vary, so if it works for you, do it. But for me, that is why I've stopped using washes almost entirely. That and the lack of control. Like, most of the time a wash going into the cracks, like, it'll be correct in some ways with actual shading, but in other ways it won't be correct. So, and I'm kind of persnickety, as you can see. Yeah, exactly. And so it was a waste of time. Like, when I started just painting in my shadows where I wanted them, not only did my brush control improve again because I was making myself be more precise with yet another technique on a model, but yeah, it saved me time. So it's like any time-saving technique saves you time until it doesn't. And always, if you notice that, you're having to go over something again, or you're having to fix something, if you're having to fix something that was meant to be a time-saving painting technique, ask yourself how much time you really saved doing that technique. But it's what your goal is in painting. It's, what you're aiming for and what effect you want, how good of a model you're going for, as opposed to, is it just a good tabletop that'll make your friends like really go, oh, or is it like actually you're like aiming to one day become a competition painter or sell some of your stuff on, Etsy to make some side money, stuff like that. You're going to have different goals depending on what your goal in the hobby is. If your goal in the hobby is just to enjoy the hobby, then do whatever makes you enjoy it the most, right? And that's definitely a hobby goal that's valid. Probably the most valid. Because if you're doing something with like a slow technique and it's taking you a while, but you're enjoying every bit of it, then do it. Like, who cares? Who cares if it's slow? It serves you because you're enjoying it. Yeah, this is he's kind of a djinn. He's an air elemental djinn stand-in. It's a box set that is called the Elemental Scions, Scions. So he's meant to be like a prince air elemental type, a leader. So you could paint him as a djinn. Obviously, he's got a little lamp, so you're good. Or you can paint him just as an air elemental taking a human form. So that's what we're doing. Oh, I totally forgot that side too. So we're gonna have to do more scales. And I didn't even base coat that sucker. Oh my gosh. Total fail, Anne. Total fail. We'll have to come back and do that. Right, exactly. Well, and it depends, again, on your goal, Simon. Like, if you want something that looks really clean and sharp, washes are hard that way. Like, if you really want something, where's something sharp? There we go. Any of these guys, actually. So here's some models that I finished previously on this stream. Oh, thanks for the link, Quindy. And so these guys. The Knoll, I probably could have used a wash on his fur because he's the most ragged. So when you've got a lot of texture, washes are a better bet. But if you want like crisp detail, if you're working on a model that's very fiddly, like this mage, a wash would not serve you at all. Or like you might do a wash to pick out all the details, but then you just paint over it all. But everything on this mage is like, everything is hand shaded. Like it's not, there's no washes. And that gives you that much neater, more controlled style. So again, it's what you are aiming for. If you want to get your gaming models done, then do washes. By gosh, they're fast, right? Especially if you just are going to do a dry brush or a quick touch highlight afterwards and you're done. Absolutely. Then that's it. Or even if you're painting a big army, right? Then washes can be your absolute friend. Anytime you have to get a lot of models done in a short period of time and you're not like concerned with getting that crisp outlay. But if I am painting something like a commander model or a big boss for a game and I want it to look really good, then I'm not going to use washes because it's going to fight me. I'm not going to get that really cool crisp effect. Yep. Yeah, so these guys all were painted on this stream. We did different things for all of them. The Knoll was done to show what kind of textures you could do. At 28 millimeter, he's got texture on his little bandolier leather. He's got textures on his sword, like nicks and scratches and stuff. And he's got a little tiny bit of rough cloth texture on there as well. And then fur texture actually on his arms. So, and then wood texture on the base. So we did a lot of like, what can you do at 28 millimeter as far as textures go? Because a lot of people use them on busts, and busts is where they really shine because you can get really realistic and intricate with them, but you can do a little bit of them on 28 as well. And then this was more a muted color scheme that I was still like, I green stuffed the base on. We didn't do the base because I've done a lot of bases lately. And then we did this lady with her intricate base. We took some time on it. So, and then her runes all on the back. So yeah. So we do a bunch of different stuff on this stream. I try to vary it up so that you always learn something new. So we've also done the latest thing was our Mouseling, and we did OSL. We did source lighting on him. So half of him is in shadow, and half of him is in the light. It's one of my favorite ones. I keep telling myself I've got to sell him on my Patreon. I just need to do his base. But I like him. I don't know if I want to sell him. Thanks. Yeah, so if you missed a lot, Corsair, those are some of the models we've done recently. Yeah, I mean, exactly, Richard, when you're doing that, you're doing that. But sometimes, if you want to slow down and do a better job on, like, your big general or your leader, right, that's when the more time intensive and painstaking techniques can come in for you. And because, like, okay, if I just ordered a bunch of Sisters of Battle. I ordered their new box set because I always liked them, and I'm like, you know what? I'm sick of David getting all the fun painting, GW stuff. And then, of course, right after I ordered it and he got to see the models, he ordered some Sisters of Battle himself, and I just wanted to go, pow! But anyway, marital difficulties aside, who says mini painters are great married couple, right? Marital troubles aside, with those, I have to choose. Am I going to do the mooks? Am I going to do the regular sisters really fast? And then, but on the main character, I want to do a competition level paint job, like on their leader model. I want to do a very good paint job on her. So that's the way I split the difference with armies in the past. Is I do a fast job on everybody who I don't really care about, but then when it comes to a really cool character or monster, I spend a lot of time. Yeah, I mean, it is honestly. Right, and it's time consuming, Simon. Like I do fur, when I do fur, Simon, I set up a wet blend. So I essentially blend wet into wet paint to set up a gradient for my fur. And then after the wet blend, then I go in and do hand texture, right? So the wet blend takes the place of a base coat and wash for me. I still like the wet blend because I can control where the shadows go. Washes tend to leave shadows even on upper surfaces, like they tend to darken stuff, and I don't like that effect. I want it to be lighter, so again, it's just the tools, right? It's the tools for the job. You can do everything with layering if you want to. It will take a long time. You can do everything with wet blending. It can also take a lot of time, but you can do washes on everything, and it's a lot faster, especially if you're working assembly line. But again, it's all in your goals. It's all in why are you doing, like, if you do a lot of washes and they give you the results that you like, the only reason to start to layer more and try to layer in your shadows instead of washing is if you want to learn that skill. If you are like, okay, I want to try this. I want to see how it works for me. I'm going to paint this model. I'm going to spend a little extra time, right? If you want that in your toolbox, then start working on that. Pick a special model that you really like and that maybe you want not to be a darker color, because that's the thing, is washes darken everything, right? And that does make a difference when you're starting to layer up highlights over a darker color. It absolutely does. We've done some streams on that, where I start dark and start light, and you can see the difference. It's very, very obvious unless you try to really disguise it, but then that takes extra work. So paint the way you like to paint, and only learn a technique, like not because you should, but because you want to. It's a hobby. It should be fun. If your models are still like 50 times better than your friends and they still think they're amazing, you don't necessarily need to like learn anything else. If you want to, then do it because you want to learn. I'm going to darken in this a bit because I've got transition here. So transition from light to dark on this scale, so I'm going to transition there. But yeah, for sure. And they're on our YouTube channel that Quindy just linked, by the way, are all the models that I've painted over the past years. And we've done well over 500 episodes at this point. So I started streaming, I think, gosh, how many years ago was it, Quindy? I moved here in 2020. I had been doing the Patreon for a year before I moved. I started streaming, I want to say a year before that. I want to say it's been 4 years, roughly. But we weren't doing it every day until I moved. But yeah, anyway, we've got a crap ton of episodes on the Reaper YouTube, like over 500. I've been working for Reaper for a very long time. In fact, in 2 months exactly, Quindy, ding, 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 ding. In 2 months exactly is my 20-year anniversary of working with Reaper. 20-year work anniversary. 20. Crazy talk. I never thought I'd work for a company for 20 years. And that's insane these days, right? With everybody switching jobs and, just generally trying to do the best for themselves, right? And companies not necessarily being as loyal to their worker base. But I mean, Reaper's always been family. Yeah, my work file is almost old enough to drink. Exactly. So in 2 months, I want to drop some serious free stuff on this channel. I want it to be a day where not even Crowley Hamster gets the Luca fist for typing #free. Just saying, Quindy, I'm warning you. We got to make it special. You like that, Crowley, huh? Old enough to drink in Scotland. If it was Scottish worker anniversary, it would be drinking. Come on, Nico. It probably would have been drinking for longer than that. But yes, so I'm sorry. I thinned my white too much, and now I have to thicken it up so I can do spot highlights. Oh well, we're gonna have to make it on Friday then. Maybe we should definitely do Friday. Make it go out with a bang. Because then it can be a party Friday. Yeah, I want some serious stuff. Like, no more just giving away like 2 or 3 little gift certificates. Like, let's do some serious. Let's drop a big gift certificate, like somewhere in the middle of the stream, like $100 or something. Let's do a big one, and then maybe we give away some dragons. Oh, yep. Thanks, Crowley. Glad I got my Crowley joke in before you left. All right, so I'm going to put it very sharp, very sharp. I want to bring my white highlights back, and I want to bring them back with a pop. Yeah, I know Fridays aren't great for everybody. It's just it'll be fun. It'll be kind of cool to close off the week and just make it a really fun stream. All right, so just bringing in those white highlights again. And I'll see what I can do about making it a little brighter. So now is when it really slows down, is when I've got my big block in. Now I'm trying to make this read right down the middle, and I probably need to bring in a lot of white down the middle and disrupt some of these little shadows I put in, but that's fine. I want to still do the shadows, and then I'm going to work on bringing in the light. And one thing you can do is always put that highlight on the side toward the strong light as well, side of each of these scales. That's true. You could just take it off. Couldn't go. Although that's also, I guess that's also the end of the month, so I'll have to make sure to get my Patreon stuff done, and then I can feel like it's a real day of fun. Because otherwise I'm always like kind of like worrying about getting my Patreon last video done on the 31st. So I'll have to plan and be good. All right, and then we want to bring over the highlights on the other side. So we're extending a little bit over to here. We're kind of bringing that in. I want to bring in a little bit of this. Yeah, we definitely have some mucked up scales in here. That's okay. At least I got the shadow in that area where the scales are kind of mucky. All right, now. Yeah. Oh, and I forgot. We owe Masara a song, don't we? Oh, thanks for the resub, Miniatures Den. Thank you, Luca. Yeah. Yeah. What a nice person. Thank you for the resub. Okay, but we owe Masara a song. And it was triple, right? So, triple sub-anniversary, triple sub-anniversary, triple sub-anniversary, happy triple sub-anniversary. There you go, Masara. Sorry it's late. Sorry it's late. I hope you're still here. Yeah. That's good. More people need to tell you that, right? Everybody needs to make sure to now Kiki woke up. She's like, "You sang, Mommy? What's up?" All right, so now let's bring in more of this white, I think. I want to pop a little bit in the middle and then thin it down. And then we're going to bring up the center more, and I'm going to bring down the sides. But yeah, so it's fiddly. Doing this kind of crap, super fiddly, guys, super fiddly. And then, you know, even me, I'm going to be like, no, and knock out part of it and knock in another part of it and just like, you know, totally be going back and forth on what I want for it and where I want my highlights, where I want my shadows. What the heck am I doing? running around in circles, hair on fire, things like that. So right down the center, it's just going to go. And I'm just going to try to kind of isolate where the light is really coming down and wipe out a bit of my shadows there and bring it all out. Well, yeah, seriously, woke up the small Scottish cat. Good. Yeah, I mean, because, okay, this is just a pain in the butt. Like, it's a serious pain in the butt, and you've got to emerge from it with something that does not look like total crap. So it's like, it is, you know, maybe, I'll tell you, like, some people have no problem with lighting like that. Okay, David, the guy I married could probably knock this off, and he'd complain a bit about how the scales are irregular, but he'd be able to make it look pretty good just with a few brush strokes, and I'd want to punch him, right? This is the way it works. Yeah, it needs color variation. I usually only do that toward the end, like miniature's done. Like I normally I do a lot more glazing on that. Like I'll bring in the peach over here, and I'll probably pop in some blues and maybe some like browns because it's desert, right? Probably Genie. But I tend to do that like after I've got like my actual like as far as my values go and everything like not sucking. But it definitely needs colors, you're right. Yeah. Uh-huh. I'm proud of him for not. Hey, that if he subs to his own stream, doesn't that just mean he believes in himself, Quindy? Yeah. That's true. Mm-hmm. And I'm already using a blue, so I could vary it. Yep. And I already am using a yellow, so I could use that. Now you're giving him ideas, Quindy. We will take Luca's suggestion, but as we are to the end of our stream and it is time to hand it off to him, we will hold off and take Luca's suggestion next time. We'll mix yellows into our whites, and we'll mix some blue into our dark gray, and we'll see what we can do. So yeah, this was, like I said, this is the struggle bus. Like doing something big and broad and textured on NMM is the struggle bus, and it just takes a long time to make it look decent. Yeah, in picture it's already, yeah, right. I get what you mean. Yeah, just cartoony, yeah. It is, except it still sucks in my opinion. It's realistic and sucky. I'm such a freaking perfectionist, Luca. Oh, Luca, look. This is my guy I'm working on right now. We like him. Yeah. We're getting metallics on him just because I wanted to. He's cool. I love him. Trust me, I've been told I'm a nice person. All right. Yeah, he's a good doggo, isn't he? Yeah, I like him. Yeah, I know. I like all the stuff. He's fun. He's almost done. It's my own personal private, like working on project right now. So, all right, guys, we did some work on a Genie. Yay! Tomorrow, we will be working on She of the Goth-tasticness, where our contrast is everything. Ms. Necromancer. Yeah. Maybe we'll, we need to do more bone on the skull. And I was thinking I might do the Raven, maybe the book. We'll see what we get to. Yeah, Goth Girl's back for tomorrow. And we gotta hand it off to Miniatures Den. And Kiki needs her walk. She's like lying by the gate looking at me going, like that. Yeah, your favorite. Yeah, Ms. Goth Girl. Yep. She totally is she's very gothic. Very, very goth. So yeah, maybe we'll do the bird tomorrow. There's a lot more I still need to do on her, but yeah. Thank you, everybody, and I hope you have a lovely day. That includes you, Luca. I hope your stream goes great, and I will see a lot of you tomorrow, all right? Bye.